Well, the offseason's not wasting any time showing up. They're still cleaning the Los Angeles victory parade, and Gerrit Cole's already opted out.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host. My name is Paul Francis Sullivan. Please, I'm begging you, call me Sully. I've been a baseball podcaster for well over a decade now, and this is wrapping up my sixth full season here at the Locked On Podcast Network. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season big on FanDuel. Get a big return. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever it's called now, and on Instagram. I am your pal Sully, but Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. I'm recording this on the morning of November 2nd, 2024. This should be the day of Game 7 of the World Series. And friends, I'm telling you this. If one of these two things happened, if either A, Aaron Boone brought in Tim Hill instead of Nestor Cortes, or if someone covered first in the fifth inning of Game 5 of the World Series in New York, just one of those two things happened, we would have had a Game 7 tonight. There's not a molecule of my body thought that the Dodgers, with their pitching staff in the shape that it was, where everybody was gassed, everyone was running on fumes, would have been able to survive a Game 6. And there would have been a Game 7. Now, a Game 7, by definition, is a coin toss. And maybe the Yankees would have won. Maybe Los Angeles would have won. I don't know. Neither do you. But if one of those two things didn't happen, if both of them did happen, yesterday probably would have clinched the World Series for the Yankees. But I absolutely believe that if the series went back to L.A. with the shape that the staff was in, then, hell, they wouldn't have won. Hell, forget even the fifth inning. Because remember, the Yankees took the lead again. If they brought in Weaver to start the eighth instead of having Canely, if they brought in Weaver to start the eighth and went the last two innings, sorry, I have an itch on my nose, we would be having baseball today. Now, as a native New Englander who grew up not being the biggest Yankee fan in the world, obviously, it didn't break my heart what happened. But as a pure baseball fan, chance to see the Game 7 of the World Series, yeah, I kind of missed that. Which leads us to, and we're going to do a whole bunch of viewer questions later because there's a piece of news that came out today. But I want to congratulate RZ217 for writing the dumbest thing that was posted on my YouTube feed. Oh, sorry, wrong one. Sorry, that's a previous dumb one. Pitts Magoo. Sorry, I clicked the wrong thing. Pitts Magoo. It looked like a rigged game. Are you out of your mind? Anyone who says this was rigged, just look in the air, look in the mirror, and say what's my personal problem? Because you have some soul searching to do. Why would it be rigged to end in 5? Why would an LA Los Angeles World Series with superstars and dramatic moments, why would it be rigged to end in 5 games, to end on a Wednesday as opposed to the weekend? Use little words to explain that to me. When they would have ratings up the wazoo, and I don't mean Pullman, Washington, if the World Series was played over the weekend. If you're saying, hey, I have reasons for thinking it's rigged, stop. All right, but the news, I was going to post an episode today, but the news came out about Gerrit Cole opting out of his contract. Now, this is a situation where that's in his contract. He has a right to say, all right, I'm going to be a free agent. And nobody can criticize him for that. This is part of negotiation. This is part of what's in his contract that he's earned. He's a player with tremendous value. He won the Cy Young Award last year with a mediocre Yankee team. He's one of the few legitimate aces left in baseball. I'll get to that in one of the later segments. And he pitched great in the World Series. The Yankees lost both of his games. And yes, he actually made two mental blunders in the fifth inning. Only one was exposed, him not running to first base to cover the bag on the slow roller to Rizzo. Also, in the when Teoscar Hernandez hit the go-ahead double, he was oddly out of place there. He was just standing in front of the mound, had to duck out of the way of the throw home. Should he have been covering the throw behind the catcher? Either way, he pitched wonderfully in game 1. They took him out too soon. He pitched great in game 5 to save the season. The defense decided not to show up, including himself. But he's a legit ace. And he pitched the Yankees past Kansas City in the first round, and he will be someone who has a great amount of value if he hits the open market. Now, there is a scenario where he won't hit the open market, and it's very simple. The Yankees have to add a year. They have to add another year to his contract. I'm going to baseballreference.com, the single greatest website in the history of the planet Earth. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want to double check something. I was about to say something. And this is the internet. They're very, very forgiving when you say something wrong. Okay, Cole is who missed the first half of the season. So he made 17 starts, but he was at full strength by the end. UCLA grad. He is signed through, where is it? Scrolling down. Okay, he is signed through 2028, which, believe it or not, is not that long from now. Now, if they add another year, have him signed through 2029, so that's basically sign him to a 5-year deal. Then at 36 million tomatoes a year, then he stays a Yankee. And then you're not saying, oh my God, will the Yankees lose both Cole and Soto in the same offseason? Well, that's a possibility. The Yankees may say, I don't know, do we want to do this? Do we want to do this? There's not another Gerrit Cole who is going to be available on the open market right now. So if he was available, would you sign him to a 5-year deal? Do you think he has 2 or 3 more ace caliber seasons in him? I believe he does. So why wouldn't you do that? And if the Yankees are a smart organization, and I'll phrase it carefully like that, they will end this before this. They will end any controversy about this before this episode is posted. They can say, oh, he opted out as was written in his contract. It's not him. This is not him saying, I'm done with New York. I'm already seeing some people saying, is he quitting on the Yankees? I saw a couple of tweets that said that. No, he's exercising what's in his contract, which is a smart thing to do. And he's trying to say, hey, give me that 10th year. Put that 10th year at the end of the contract. Let's go. And if you don't, I'll walk. Now, if he walks, there are lots of teams that would say, sure, we'll give you 5-6 years, especially teams that are within the window of opportunity of winning the World Series, especially teams whose fan bases are mad. The Mets, the Seattle Mariners, the Toronto Blue Jays, the San Francisco Giants, the Boston Red Sox, the Chicago Cubs. Right off the top of my head, there's 5. I'll give you another one. The Texas Rangers, who have money, and they also have Bruce Bochy. What does he do every other year? He wins every other year. That's what the man does. So the Yankees can end any controversy by saying, sure. Oh, you opted out? Oh, yeah. Here you go. That can be done before we hit Sunday. And if I were the Yankees, I would do that. Put out, this is not even a fire. This is a spark. So I wouldn't, yes, I put a big thumbnail, Cole opts out on this video, because that's the news for the day. But it could be yesterday's news before tomorrow shows up. That's a strange sentence, and I admit that. But this is not a controversy. This is something that can be very easily fixed. If he does go out in the open market, he will get the money he wants. The Yankees completely control the situation, and so they should. And they should before this ferments. I have heard a lot of people talking about the Soto situation and trying to read the tea leaves. I can't look at it. I think Michael Kay is great. I think he's a great, I actually think he's a good announcer. I like his show. But I couldn't believe that they were talking about like, oh, well, he's got to love the pinstripes. He's got to they're trying to appeal to him on that. Like, what are you talking about? Any conversation about where Juan Soto is going to go is very simple. They actually did make this point, but anyone saying like, oh, he's not going to sign with Los Angeles because they don't like Scott Boras, or oh, he's going to resign with the Yankees because he wants to play alongside Aaron Judge, or this, that, or the other thing. It's very simple. And he said it in the post-game show. Every team has a shot at him. All you have to do, if you want Juan Soto, here's how you get him. It's very simple. Find out what his biggest offer is and offer him $1 more. Boom, he's yours. It's that simple. Juan Soto, the idea of him wanting to chase a ring, he has a ring. He wants to play on the biggest stage. He did. It proved himself well. You know, I know people say, oh, if you're always chasing after the big contract, you could end up like Chris Bryant, where he's basically in Siberia. Actually, I saw him play when I went to the game in Sacramento over the summer. Chris Bryant was doing a rehab start for the Albuquerque Isotopes. Yeah, he's had a couple of lost seasons. You know, his 2022, 2023, and 2024 have been injury plagued. Great. Fantastic. Guess what? He has a World Series ring, and he is going to finish his career with over $100 million in the bank and beloved forever by Chicago, a team that dumped him. So, yeah, I'm sure he's fine. I'm sure he would like to be playing on a championship team right now. But you know what? I call me crazy. I think he's okay. Now, as I said, the situation with Gerrit Cole could be solved like that. Like that. If the Yankees are smart, they'll do that. He is that rare thing, an ace. And teams need to start developing him. In fact, in segment 2, we're going to talk about this. Some teams should do some counter developing for today's trends. And I think you'll see some great successes. And excuse me, I'm going to go change my shirt. Hey, let's hear from Prize Picks. It's the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to us all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Prize Picks puts its members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. And Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. Join over 10 million users today. And you can get on the action in over 30 states, including Florida, Texas, Georgia, and right here in California. Prize Picks also offers weekly projections that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% or even more value for your lineups. So here's what you got to do. You got to download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Let me repeat that. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB. You get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, put my other shirt back on. I don't want anyone thinking that I record any of the ads in advance. That would be tragic. The Dodgers won the World Series this year essentially without a starting rotation. And I think with that, Dave Roberts deserves to be carried around on people's shoulders. I don't ever want to hear, and I said this the other day, I don't want to hear a single nasty word about Dave Roberts' ability to manage. The man did it fantastic, did it where he had to manage scheduled bullpen games, not an emergency bullpen game. Like, oh my God, we don't have a starting pitcher for today. That's happened in the past. We've all seen that happen in the past. Like, you know what? We got nothing. Or it's like all of a sudden you have to do a double header and like because of a rain delay or something, we don't have another starting pitcher or starting pitcher's injured. So you have to do that. That's happened. That's part of baseball. But the scheduled bullpen games is a new phenomenon. And part of that is because aces aren't developed anymore. And I have talked about that. I have said, and I'm going to later I'll address everything there. But the reason aces aren't developed and why we keep hearing, well, it's more effective, after 2 times through the lineup, you got to have someone come in for the third, blah, blah, blah. Here's the sabermetrics to show that. Here's the stats to show that. Has nothing to do with analytics, has nothing to do with stats. It has to do with money. Ace pitchers are expensive. Gerrit Cole is not a spring chicken, and he wants another year. And there are not a lot of pitchers like Gerrit Cole because they are expensive. So why do you think all the organizations have latched on like a koala hugging a tree to the idea of, well, after 2 times through the order, you got to bring in another pitcher? Not because someone thought that was smart, so people can save money. It has nothing to do with analytics. It has everything to do with available balance. Prove me wrong. And this idea of, well, if you starting pitcher after 2 times through the order, great. Then you start bringing in the relievers. The obvious thing that Eddie Simeon could see would be the problem with that raised its ugly head in the World Series. And that is you're using your relievers every game, even when the pitcher is doing fine. And so what does that mean? Your relievers are gassed. The bullpens at the end of the year are like, oh my God, do I have to throw again? Yes, you have to throw 7 games out of 5. I don't know how that's possible. Look, I'm glad that there was a couple players like Casparius and Enriquez who were pitchers for Los Angeles who got to get a World Series ring after appearing in 3 regular season games. I love when stuff like that happens. But now it's like, yeah, I wouldn't mind if the pitching staff in the playoffs resembles the pitching staff from the regular season. And part of it is because the bullpens are exhausted because they're pitching every day. And you're treating bullpens like those Revolutionary War or those Napoleon pictures where the front line just marches to get shot and then the next people run to fill that up and they get shot, and that the first wave there, the guys who are relievers in April, May, June, and then they're down. And by the time we get to freaking the World Series, there's a bunch of people, well, this is actually his 5th game with the Dodgers. Or freaking Trinan, who's out there, like sweat pouring down his head. I have to pitch again. Yeah, because we used 9 relievers in the first 3 innings. Sorry. What would have happened? That game went into extras. Good Lord, who was left? It's going to be the 14th caller. And maybe, just maybe, if you start developing ace pitchers through your system, you say, okay, 2 times through the lineup, get us a 3rd time. Figure it out. All my life I've been hearing about when great pitchers take the turn away from just hard-throwing flamethrowers to pitchers when they can outsmart a batter, when they can say, oh, okay, I've gone through the 2 times. Where are their vulnerabilities and this, that, and the other thing? You heard of Tom Seaver when he made the transition from being a hard thrower to a pitcher. Koufax, Clemens, Pedro Martinez, all of them had the same scenario, which was, okay, yeah, they had the talent, but then they figured out how to also outsmart the hitters. One of the 5 greatest pitchers I ever saw in my life was Greg Maddux, who wasn't a flamethrower. He was smarter than everybody on the field except Tony Gwynn. And he did so without it being, oh, he's got 100 mile an hour changeup. Maybe you use the farm system to develop pitchers to get through the next inning, to get through the next time through the order. Maybe that becomes a mindset of the team that you're building up. Maybe I understand why, me look at radar gun say high number, he good. I understand the Neanderthal mentality because the numbers are quantifiable. That fast pitch, that not fast pitch better than not fast pitch. Okay, but what happened to the junk ball pitchers? What happened to the innings eaters? The people who give you 6, 7 innings. I'm not even talking about a superstar, the way of like a John Garland would come in and pitch 6, 7 innings. That the rotation is going to be in reasonably good hands. This is, by the way, this is not old man Sully saying, in my day, they pitched a long time. I'm talking about Koufax and Marichal. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the last decade, the 2010s. I'm going all the way back to the 2010s. Way back then, I was the host of Locked On MLB. Some of the pitchers I'm going to bring up are still active. Think about when you had rotations where you had an ace pitcher whose job it was to basically look at the bullpen and say, take the night off, fellas. Or at least the bullpen knew, okay, this pitcher's up. We're going to have 2 innings max today, because you give them the ball and you say, okay, this person's job is to get through the lineup a third and sometimes a 4th time. I'm not talking about, oh my God, this was the days of Ferguson Jenkins and Don Drysdale. I'm talking about Lincecum, Clayton Kershaw, who pitched this year, Zach Greinke, who pitched last year, Scherzer, who pitched this year, CC Sabathia, Chris Carpenter, Adam Wainwright. That was part of the game. To have you have an ace pitcher who's on the mound, a David Price, a Chris Sale, a John Lester. Their job was to give you 7 or 8 innings. Get us through that. And they're not being developed for economic reasons. And a mindset of, well, I gave you 5. It's not about toughness. I'm a teacher. And part of the things I'm trying to teach kids is use of functional skills. And I can't blame them for not knowing functional skills if they haven't been taught it. Same thing with pitchers. I can't blame a pitcher for not being able to get through 7 innings if they're being taught not to. And some organization will come to that mindset going, hey, what if we start developing our players, our pitchers to go through, figure out, okay, you've gone through them twice. What are the weaknesses? What are the things that you can exploit that 3rd time around? That may not be you chucking it 100 miles an hour, but outsmarting the hitter. And behind you, you have teams where defense is stressed. You saw the Yankees go to the World Series with a team that has 0 emphasis on defense. 0. Look me in the eye and say anyone was worried about defense on that team. Everyone's out of position on that field. And the Dodgers exploited it. The Royals and Cleveland couldn't exploit it because the Yankees outslugged them. But if you have imagined, just fathom the idea of a team who develops pitchers who say, okay, I've got through them 2 times through the order. I need to get a 3rd time through the order because I can't have the bullpen throwing 4 innings every day. And your players on the field go, okay, if the ball comes to me, where am I going to go and where should I stand? Fielding analytics have improved the game tremendously when used right. I'm not anti-analytics. The Dodgers won the World Series. They're one of the most analytical teams out there. And they noticed that the players tended to be standing where the ball was going to be hit. It's just a mentality. It's a mentality where, hey, why don't we stress figuring out what to do besides just chuck it up there as hard as you can until your arm falls off. Some team will counteract the current trend and find themselves with a nice rotation. They may not be all aces, but maybe there could be innings eaters where your bullpen is able to not be gassed by the end of the year. Which comes first, the strong rotation or the bullpen? It's both. Some of the deepest pitching staffs I've ever seen, some of the best pitching staffs I've ever seen, have been the one where the pitchers go 5, 6, 7 innings, and the bullpen is there so that you bring in relievers when the starter needs relief. And a team that also develops hitters to not just worry about, just doesn't matter what happens, just work on your launch angles. Doesn't matter if you strike out. No, it does. And the Dodgers proved that. When you have a team with bad defense, put the ball in play. You shouldn't strike out when you're facing a team with bad defense. If you put the ball in play, sure, you can hit into a double play. Or you can hit it to Judge where it clanks off his glove. You can hit it to Volpe, who throws it in the ground where the third baseman, Jazz Chisholm, is not a third baseman, doesn't know what to do there. Or you can hit a slow grounder to first, and Gerrit Cole is walking off the mound saying, I wonder if I should opt out in 3 days. If the team has bad defense, put the bat on the ball and see what happens. Some team is going to start doing that and start developing players. One of the great ironies about the so-called analytic movement making us move away, and I say so-called because there are teams that use analytics really intelligently, okay? But moving away from ace pitchers because they're too expensive, that's the only reason why they're doing it. And the team that everyone points to as starting this whole thing were the A's of the early 2000s, who the main reason they won all those division titles was they had Zito, Mulder, and Hudson pitching 60% of their games. But here we are. I think I should go to another commercial break. And this time, I may keep the same shirt on. You know, I use GameTime to get my tickets for Game 6 of the NLCS. I was going to try to get tickets for Game 6 of the World Series through GameTime, but Gerrit Cole decided not to cover first base. But there are lots of other things going on besides baseball. GameTime is an authorized ticket marketplace in Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier, but you can use them from all sorts of things and all sorts of terrific events. You can use the flash deals, and you can save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. Hey, do you want to go to a football game, basketball game, comedy show, theater, concerts? You better use GameTime for that too. It's not just for baseball anymore. You get all-in pricing, and you get the seat view. You get a panoramic view from the seat in the app before you buy. Take all the guesswork out of buying baseball tickets, Major League, or any other live events, and use GameTime. Download the app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices. Do you know what they are? They're guaranteed. All right, I went way over on that segment. So let's see who's let's see who's out there. There's a bunch of people out there. Bryant is in purgatory with the Rocks, says Cameron Coy. Yeah, but I'm sure having hundreds of $1 million in a World Series ring will get through it. Cameron Coy also said Cole opted out of covering first base. That's true. That's true. TP Joseph says Judge, Stanton, Soto, Cole, $200 million for 4 players. a real commissioner wouldn't allow that like Kuhn did in the past. Holy cow, TP Joseph, you couldn't be more wrong if you made an effort. I look at Bowie Kuhn wrote back to me when I wrote him a letter when I was a little kid, so I always love him for that. The fact that he interfered with Charlie Finley rebuilding the A's was an absolute disgrace. The fact that he worked overtime to prevent free agency was an absolute disgrace. Bowie Kuhn, the best thing he ever did was write a letter back to me. But as a commissioner, nope, sorry, you're wrong. Jay Vargas says Soto will sign with the Dodgers. He may bring Cole with him. Soto may sign with whom? He'll sign with the White Sox if they offer him the most money. That's really all it is. It's not that complicated a concept. And Dodgers didn't want to use the multiple stars. Yes, Cameron, I'm aware that they had to do the bullpen because of the injuries, but they also didn't have, first of all, you signed they signed Glasnow, who you knew was an injury risk when he was there, and your farm system should have players who are able to build upon that. I'm aware that's why they had it. You may notice I've watched a couple of games this year. So yeah. Soto is going to San Francisco, says Johnny Deep. If they offer the most money, great. Yeah. A couple other things that people wrote to me. Someone said, Cammy Lou 108 says, for God's sakes, please give the Dodgers credit. The Dodgers were the superior team, the grit, clean baseball, not cracking on pleasure. When did I not give the Dodgers credit? They're the best team in baseball. And their manager did a Hall of Fame worthy job. Blaine Griffin says, do you think the Dodgers pitching staff would have been able to handle 6 games if they lost? No. I think they were done. I really do. I think the Yankees would have won game 6 and 7. Unless, of course, Aaron Boone managed the way he does. Rivka Maiselman 3375 says, who signs as Chris? Giancarlo Stanton, his conduct, his play, and his leadership. Couldn't agree with you more. And keep in mind, Giancarlo Stanton was a foot away twice in 2021 in the wild card game against Boston. He was a foot away from hitting 3 home runs in a wild card game. And Stanton carried New York to the playoffs in 2021. He's a very good postseason player. And anyone who has an issue with him, just watch what he did this year. He came up big so many times. And yeah, I don't want to hear a bad thing about him. Not one thing. All right, folks. We've got a couple other things we're going to talk about over the next few days. Obviously, we're going to be looking at some of the awards that are coming out. Booney, who's the new host of Locked On A's. Remember, I did Locked On A's this year. We're going to be doing a crossover, and that's going to be dropped either on Sunday or Monday. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about the need for baseball to have an award show. You'd watch it. I'd watch it. I think it would be a hit. So, thanks for everyone for watching here on this live stream here on Saturday. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever it's called now, and on Instagram. I am your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Praying that teams can work out ways to have pitchers who aren't injured work through that third time through the order. And Gerrit Cole's situation with the Yankees is a click away from ending for them if they just give him that last year. This has been Locked On MLB for the day that should have been Game 7 of the World Series. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.